Welcome to the Women's Sports Update. I'm Jocelyn Mejia here with Miles Crane, and today we're going to be talking everything WNBA.
Today we're going to be giving a brief little overview of round one of the WNBA playoffs. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the number one seed in that playoffs, being the Minnesota Lynx, led by All-Star MVP finalist Napheesa Collier. Jocelyn, want to take it away?
I mean, I think it was clear that the Lynx are a fan favorite. Everybody is predicting them to win the championship, but we're going to talk a little bit more about their challenges in their second game. But just to get into Indiana Fever, underdog beating the Atlanta Dream. What do you got from the game?
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. You know, late in the regular season, Indiana, Caitlin Clark's out for the rest of the year, and you think it's all over. And then suddenly they win in that, forcing that game three and winning it overall. They did a great job. Their players stepped up where they needed to. They really fought with that aggression and passion that showed when they come up with 15 points created off the turnovers against Atlanta. Anything else?
I think that Indiana Fever had a lot to prove. I mean, right when Caitlin Clark went out, I bet a lot of people lost their confidence as a team. You know, this player is putting up all their points and putting up all their stats. But I think players like Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell really stepped up this game. I mean, Aaliyah Boston made the game scoring win, and it was huge for the Indiana Fever. And I think going on, they have a lot more to prove. And in semifinals, I think they have the ability to excel as well. But getting into the New York Liberty, former WNBA champions, where are they? Not in the semifinals. So what are your thoughts on the game?
Definitely a shocker there. You really think they have that chance for that back-to-back title. And it really seems believable until they come across Phoenix. And two standout players with that being Satu Sabali putting up 23 points and 12 rebounds in that game three. But more importantly, Alyssa Thomas in her ninth triple-double in the regular season. It's impressive enough to get one, but getting 9 across the entire season, let alone 20 points, 11 rebounds.
Getting one in the playoffs to begin with is huge. I mean, I just don't think that the New York Liberty necessarily thought that she would put up these same stats as she was during the season, but they had it handed to them, especially Brianna Stewart. I mean, I feel bad for the girl. She scored 30 points and her team still could not prevail. It's really disappointing, but bye, and Phoenix Mercury is here. Now, Seattle Storm and the Las Vegas Aces. This was a little funky matchup, so what do you think?
Definitely a bit more expected. You still don't really think that it's going to get to that final game of the series, especially when you have a team like Las Vegas, one of the most dominant teams in the W. They've been dominant for a long time, and that's because of arguably the face of the league in Aja Wilson, recording 38 points in that final game. But crazy enough, game on the line to break her playoff single game record, and she misses the shot.
Misses the shot.
Yeah.
But you know who she has? She has Jackie Young to put up the rebound and win for the Aces. It was a hard competition. I mean, I think they thought the game would go kind of like the Minnesota game where there was only two because, you know, you're going against number 7 and number 2 team. But no. Seattle Storm definitely put on their game face for these games, but they just couldn't take it out. And I think it's just because of their gameplay. They work too cohesively together.
100%.
But going into the fan favorite, Minnesota, and the new 2025 team, Golden State. What do you have?
Yeah, 100%. The one game that was a complete sweep, Minnesota wins it to move on. But in all honesty, in my opinion, Golden State didn't lose this game. Considering this is their first time in the league and they make it all the way into the playoffs is props enough. You have dominant players trying to make their marks, and it only goes upwards from here. With college classes getting stronger, more free agents, more people wanting to play, it really just only gets better for this team with already solid founding teams. But there's only really going upwards here for Golden State.
I think in general, Golden State has made a great foundation to their team. I mean, the first year and you're already in the playoffs going against, this is a tough team. I mean, this is the best team. So going up against them is hard to begin with. And then in the second game, it's a 1-point game. Nobody expected that. So I think going into the 2026 season, they have so much to prove and they're only going to improve from there. So like you said, I think this is a win-win game. It's really hard, but slightly expected, but they're going to get better further from here. But going on to the most exciting part, semifinals are here and championship is almost here. So what are your predictions?
Yeah, these games in round one have really been those Disney movie finishes, those 1-point buzzer beaters. And I think it's only going to get better. Me personally, I have it being a battle of the bigs, your two MVP finalists, and Nafisa Collier with the Lynx versus Aja Wilson and the Aces in the finals. And I have Minnesota taking that game full on. It's going to be an absolute dogfight to the very end, but I have them pulling through.
See, I'm going to have to disagree with you there. I think Indiana Fever, the underdogs, are going to come up, and I want them against Minnesota. I want to see that game completely, because even though Caitlin Clark's on the bench, and she's Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell put up a great game, and if they put that same determination and confidence into a championship game, I could just imagine how great it would be. So this is going to come to a surprise. I say Indiana Fever and Minnesota score 82-83, and it'll be a close one. All right, thank you guys so much, and passing it off to Guy and Baylor.
Thanks, guys. I'm Baylor Dajan alongside Guy Franklin, and we're here to talk some NCAA volleyball. First off, we're going to go through the non-conference play and head into conference play. So, Guy, what are your keys going forward?
Look, at the end of the day, I just don't think that the Big Ten is that great. This year's Penn State is definitely not last year's national championship winning squad. And with the way that Texas and Louisville have looked, I really think that those are the teams to beat this year. They have been absolutely dominant.
Fair enough, and I do agree. The Big Ten has not looked as strong as usual as it usually does, but it still has the number one team in the country in Nebraska, and they have looked amazing. They've beat ranked team after ranked team. And also Wisconsin, Purdue, Minnesota, and Penn State still all have their fair share of good wins. And I trust the Big Ten when it comes to tournament time, so I don't know.
Nebraska is Nebraska. There's a reason that they have a little number one next to their logo. But at the end of the day, I just haven't been wowed by these other teams. Penn State did not look great against Pitt. Purdue hasn't beaten really anybody of note. They've failed in their one test. And has Minnesota played anyone with a pulse yet?
Well, to look into that, we'll have to check out the games from the past week.
This was a week of huge consequences. First off, our condolences to Bucky Badger in Madison, Wisconsin, who fainted in the stands. But Wisconsin looked great against Florida. They adapted really well against Anaya Madkin. It was a match that really looked destined for 5 sets, but ultimately, after saving what felt like 100 set points, but it was just under 10, Wisconsin was able to take it in 4. It wasn't all positive, especially in that first set. They really struggled, but I think I can see the vision with that squad.
Yeah, and on top of that, Mimi Collier looked phenomenal in this matchup. She dominated the whole time. She was killing ball after ball after ball. And yeah, I agree with that so far.
Yeah, she was taking huge swings, and a lot of that comes from being set up beautifully. And honestly, after seeing that performance, I think we should have included her in our National Player of the Year watch. To take some terminology from our friends at the WNBA, she was absolutely hooping.
That she was. Well, personally, as a Midwesterner, my eye this weekend was on Kansas Creighton. What are your thoughts about this game?
Let me tell you something, Baylor. This Creighton team is legit. We saw what they did against Nebraska, and honestly, I think they would have taken that if it wasn't for a few service errors. That's a fixable mistake, and obviously they're in the Big East, which doesn't have the strongest volleyball scene. I really think that this is a team that we could be seeing, doing incredibly well come tournament time.
I agree, and we know about the Jays, but what are some other teams you have your eye on for the rest of the year?
Well, a lot of birds at the top. I'll call this one a pecking order. The Louisville Cardinals are looking incredible. Coming into this season, I'll be fully honest, they were my national championship pick. I really like this Louisville roster. Obviously, Texas beat them toe-to-toe, so I think that they've proven themselves to be the best, if not certainly in that top tier as well. And obviously, you have Nebraska. I think Pitt's got a great chance to sneak in there. They could already be in there depending on how you feel about Penn State this year. But I think depending on how Pitt does in the ACC, you will absolutely see their names.
I do agree with that top tier, but it doesn't sound like there's that many birds. I've only heard one on there. But anyways, I do really like the Huskers this year with new coach Danny Busboom-Kelly. I really like her adjustments. She basically single-handedly won the game against Kentucky with the adjustment from Lainey Choboy to Olivia Mock at libero. So I think that is a big strong suit for Nebraska this year. That is, you can say, is very different than their other teams. But other than the top 3, what are some, sleeper picks of yours?
All right, well, you were talking some positives about the Big Ten, and I'll tell you what. You want to know who beat that Purdue team that you like so much? Georgia Tech. This is a really interesting team this year. I think the Jackets are legit, and obviously they're not getting quite the publicity that a lot of other teams are. They're still in the back half of that AP Top 25. But again, this is a team that I think really could make some noise. The Jackets are legit, folks. And then Creighton, I mean, the Big East is easy enough that it really feels like a launch pad. I think they're going to take off. We saw what they did against Nebraska. We're seeing what they are able to do in these marquee non-conference matchups. The question for me really is, are they battle tested enough? When the matchups are going to get scary, and I don't know that the Big East really has that same pull that you're going to see a lot of these other squads get.
That's true, yeah. And obviously these two teams both have big wins over ranked opponents in the non-conference, but is there another team that maybe hasn't performed up to that standard yet that you still have confidence in going forward?
Well, I'll give you a team that has actually had a down arrow next to them a lot this season, and that's Missouri. Look, the loss to Arkansas State really isn't a positive. There's no real way to spin it. I guess you could say that they beat Arkansas State just a few days later. But they've remained competitive against the top competition that they've played. They played TCU really well. They've played Stanford really well. You'll see them with more top-tier action in that SEC. And they took care of their other matches. It was just one little slip-up, I think, that really hurt them a ton this year. And I really like Maya Sands. She is, for my money, the best libero in the country. She's just incredible. She's a spark plug. She's returning this year. That's a huge piece for me.
Fair enough. And speaking of Maya Sands, can we hear more about her and the rest of your National Player of the Year race, other than obviously the reigning winner, Olivia Babcock?
Well, let's talk about some favorites who could dethrone Olivia Babcock. Look, she's obviously the favorite, but my eyes are obviously on Maya Sands. As that libero, she plays incredibly below the net. To be quite honest, if I was smarter, I would make a good sand and digging pun. She's really digging out everything, it feels like. The other two are a lot more obvious, and that is Harper Murray and Tori Stafford. Those are some outside hitters who are absolute killers. There's the pun for you. I think if those two want the awards, and I think both of them are more likely than Sands, then their team has to prove to be the best in the country. If that happens, give me Stafford. Look, I believe in Texas more than anyone in the country. That win against Louisville was so impressive. So I think I'll take Tori Stafford. I'll give her the keys.
Fair enough. And personally, my opinion is I'm a big Nebraska supporter here this year, especially, and I think Harper Murray will take the award this year. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have. So from Baylor Dajan and Guy Franklin, we'll have to toss it over to Caitlin McDonough, Fiona McHugh, and Brady Taylor for their segment on the women's Syracuse ice hockey team.
Thanks, Baylor. I'm Caitlin McDonough, joined alongside Fiona McHugh and Brady Taylor. And today we're going to be talking about Syracuse women's ice hockey. Syracuse women's ice hockey is, though, without goaltender Allie Kelly to start its season. She ran out of eligibility. So head coach Brittany Smith has a decision to make. She'll either turn to goaltender Bella Gould, who skated in 115 minutes and made 38 saves last season. But on the other side, she could look to freshman and newcomer Ava Drabick. Drabick is a top prospect in this 2025 recruiting class. She has experience with the U18 Canadian national team, where she won a gold medal in the World Juniors. She also boasts a career save percentage of .96, but she's not the only freshman that is coming into this class and is going to make an impact for the Orange. Brady, what are some other freshmen and newcomers that you've been looking at?
There are a lot of good ones. I really like Ava Drabick, who you mentioned being a top freshman coming up as a goaltender, and I'm really excited to see what she can bring not only this year, but in the future of Syracuse hockey. Additionally, the Orange lost 3 out of their 4 leading point scorers from last year, so it was clear in the offseason they looked to reproduce some of the newcomers to get point production, specifically from defenseman Rachel Walsh last year, who played with Lindsay Surge AAA, scored 16 points in 30 games. I'm looking to see at her, maybe she could 1 point quarterback the power play to get the power play going, as well as Jordan Bluen, who last year with Rink Hockey Academy Kelowna Prep scored 22 points in 29 games. I'm really excited to see how the forward group pairs and see how the offense looks this upcoming season.
And in terms of newcomers, that's not the only place where head coach Brittany Smith added some attacking firepower. She also added some new coaches to her staff, Fiona.
Yeah, they did. So we added Coach Jordan Lipson and Dan Ringwald as assistant coaches this year. So Lipson coached at Robert Morris University, and Ringwald had a Hall of Fame career at RIT. So Lipson also comes across as
4 national championships. She was the only six female ice hockey players in NCAA history to have 4 national championships under her belt. So she's got a lot of experience going deep into the playoffs, which I'd love to see the hockey team do this year. Ringwald also played defense at RIT, played in the AHL, and so Ringwald's going to bring a lot of critical defensive experience to this young team that has really defensively challenged heading into this season. I'm really excited to see what both of them do defensively to help boost this team going into next year. You mentioned that it's a young team. In fact, a couple of the captains they have, both vice captain and head captain, they're juniors. You know, you've got Heidi Knoll and Jackson Kinsler both wearing the A on their shirt. And as captain, it's going to be Nia Tervonen. She's a junior from Finland. She logged minutes in all 38 games last season as a sophomore. She also had a career best season. But in terms of Jackson Kinsler and Heidi Knoll, their experience carries them into this team as well. Jackson Kinsler was a force to be reckoned with last season. Same thing with Knoll. And speaking of Kinsler, she is a captain, but she also has to step up this season, Fiona. She does, you're right. So Jackson Kinsler also played all 38 games last year, and she was one of the Orange's top scorers and led in points. She had 25 points last season with 17 assists, so she led the team in assists, and she was also tied in 9th for the entire AHA. But I think where Jackson Kinsler really needs to step up is she needs to be more critical in the special teams. She was a force on the power play. I do think that we need to see Kinsler step up in critical moments when we need her in crunch time in games and not just be an overall strong points contender. I also think Kinsler really shines on the penalty kill. I want to see Kinsler more on the penalty kill. She blocked 24 shots last season. She also only had 4 penalty minutes all of last year. I think that really shows her clean play. She's really good playing a clean, gritty game, and she's also really great right in front of the net. She's really great at winning the little puck battles in the slot, whether it's on forward or defensively. She's really great at getting the pucks out. She's really good at putting her head down and getting to work, and I really think that she can shine more this year, setting people up, but I also would just love to see her become a really potent goal scorer. Kinsler definitely needs to step up this season, and she's going against a tough schedule. Last season, the Orange did pretty well, but this season, Brady, it's going to be a tough challenge, isn't it?
It is. It's going to be a real hard challenge for Kinsler to step up, as well as the new coaching staff, as you mentioned, because they're going to have to hit the ground running. As right away, Syracuse starts the season with 2 out of their first 3 series versus top 10 teams as they begin hosting Minnesota Duluth and then before going on the road to Quinnipiac. And then after that, conference play doesn't begin until October 17th, where they face Delaware on the road. But right after that, the Orange has a really challenging road schedule that I'm looking at. And it seems like they might get a little winded from all the travel as they don't play any games at Tennessee from October 26th to November 20th. So almost a month of being on the road. One of the specific key matchups I'm looking at conference play-wise is they played Penn State 4 times. It was number 8 in the country. And I'm going to highlight the January 16th and 17th matchup because those games are at home. I'm looking to see Syracuse potentially pull off the upset. They overall just have a really challenging schedule, but it'll be interesting to see how this young forward group and this young new coaching staff reacts to that schedule for the future.
It'll definitely be an uphill battle, but if there's anything that we know about Coach Smith is that she never gives up. The Syracuse team never gives up. It's going to be an amazing season for them. We hope to see a lot of victories. But that's all the time we have on this episode of Women's Sports Update. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you 2 weeks from now for our next show. Have a great night.